Welcome to After Dark at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, featuring Katrina Ness, Vanessa Collins, and Ted Ings. This episode is brought to you by BG Products, partners beyond products. And now for your hosts, Ted Ings, Vanessa Collins, and Katrina Ness.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable's After Dark show. Happy Monday. And tonight we have two very special guests, Elian Duckcatch, a consultant at Car Wars, and Scott Skogard from Roseville Kia. So welcome both.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Gentlemen, welcome. Happy Monday night. Happy December. Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable's After Dark show. Katrina, I see the comments rolling in, so I guess Katrina, we're live tonight, right?
Yep, we're live. We're going. We see a couple friends in the chat. We have Tony Owens, Sean Kingery, Timothy Wilson, all familiar faces. And
so
participants.
I got to share this because Sean Kingery's in the chat, and he's very much involved with what I showed you in the green room, Scott. This came tonight, shipped to me. Apparently, Sean Kingery, this is a championship boxing belt for the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and we're going to be bringing this to Bozard to our pop-up event this week, Vanessa, in Florida, where I'll see you on Wednesday, and Katrina and Sarah and Ed Roberts and everybody else who's coming as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And Elian, you've seen these before. You mentioned that as well.
Yeah. Yep. We're doing a similar competition right now for our dealerships, and the groups are competing for each other for like the best service team and the best sales team in the group, and they're getting those. So it's definitely a valuable prize to have nowadays.
All right. I put it down on the ground. I don't want to drop it in my foot or something, right? The thing is friggin' heavy, okay? It's nuts. So, yeah, we're really honored tonight to have Scott and Elian with us. Scott is with Roseville Kia up in the Sacramento area in California, and Elian is with Car Wars. Michael Weldon, you're also in Northern California. Michael spent a long time with the Hansel Automotive Group, and appreciate you being here, Michael. And Katrina, if you would, the big event that we have coming up, we saw the Route 66. Give us the lowdown or down low on that, if you will.
Of course. So our next event is Route 66 with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. These dates are January 20th through the 23rd. You can get your complimentary tickets at fixedopsroundtable.com. This is a 4-day virtual event spanning from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you there. And like I said, you can get your complimentary tickets at fixedopsroundtable.com.
Yeah, Katrina, are we going to have enough content for a 4-day event?
We always do. So we have a lot of amazing speakers, keynote panelists, and various experts from the industry to look forward to hearing from this event. So
yep. And Car Wars was a big part of the last one that we did in November. And for those of you watching tonight, everybody, on Wednesday, Katrina and Vanessa and I and many others are heading down to St. Augustine, Florida, along with this young lady, Sarah Van Tyne. And we're going to be putting on a pop-up Fixed Ops Roundtable at Bozard Ford Lincoln on Thursday and on Friday. And that's going to be broadcast as well. And no, Sean Kingery, there's no 5-day event. I'm sorry. But the pop-up is going to be very well received. It's going to focus around mobile service. And Vanessa, that agenda I sent you and Katrina, Ed Roberts worked on that all weekend. I think there are 19 panels on Thursday, dealership panels. And
that is awesome.
It's going to be nuts. So.
It's going to be a packed 2 days, but it's going to be great. We're going to get a lot of content. And yeah, I know Katrina and I are really looking forward to it.
All right. So Scott, tell us about yourself, and how you got involved with Car Wars, and how this all kind of came together here tonight.
Great. That'll take our whole time, I think. I've been doing this for many, many years. Just came from a massive dealer group that was sold to Lithia, and now in the process with the current dealership owner starting a new group. Really, I'm one of those unique individuals. I actually write my own CSS, HTML, and JavaScript for our websites and get really deeply engaged in what that presentation means, and then monitor how the results impact the dealership and profitability and functionality. So I'm the resident nerd, if you will. And part of that association with really being in the weeds was to partner with vendors that helped me really take a deep dive into analytics and seeing what works. And quite frankly, I've been a partner with Car Wars for many years across many different ventures, and it's been a winning recipe for a long time.
And Scott, that partnership is it's on the variable side as well, right? It's not just one thing that stops. It's the whole gamut. Tell us about that. Then we'll come to Elian for some color on that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that that we found to be the most important asset is to maintain that personal relationship with our clients. And clearly, Car Wars helps us to maintain that real interpersonal connection, maintain that relationship. It's not just a static AI-driven response.
Okay, wonderful. And Elian, you're with us tonight. Tell us a little bit about the relationship that Car Wars and you have with Roseville.
Yeah, definitely. I know, obviously, it goes without saying, Scott is heavily involved in where the analytics meets the customer experience. I mean, doing his own marketing and different back end and front end things is super impressive. What the big thing with Car Wars is, and I'm sure Scott, with his comments, touched on it earlier, is not only are we looking at the analytics and understanding the calls coming in, what's happening on those customer calls, but there's personalized consultants such as myself or Scott that reach out and discuss these analytics and discuss the customer experience that we're seeing. So it's important that there's a human and there's an actual touch to the relationship that you have. It's not just seeing numbers on a scoreboard.
And Elian, give us a little bit more background on Car Wars. Tell us what Car Wars does for the industry. We've had Car Wars on a couple times, but for those who may not know.
Yeah, that's the golden question. And it really comes down to a fairly simple answer, but it's just owning the phone, mastering the customer experience, and giving the customers a reason to stay, a reason to come back, and a reason to call the dealership, knowing that when they give that call, it's going to be connected. They're going to try and request an appointment and set that appointment with us. And more importantly, are they going to reach back out to me? And what is the customer experience that I'm getting when I talk to the customer on the phone? We help the dealership understand what's going on and also where to improve.
Scott, if I may, and then I'll turn it over to Katrina and Vanessa for some questions.
Sure.
Scott, I thought the phones were going to go away in our industry. With all the talk about AI, right, and digital assistants, I'm surprised. But Scott, the phone seems to be bigger than ever.
In a word, yeah. When I go to all these different shows, I go to NADA and all the different events and 20 groups, there's so much discussion from the upstart vendor side about AI. You're right, trying to replace the way the business has been done. And we frankly experimented with some of those potential solutions and we're really disappointed. And so just dipping a toe in the shallow end, just seeing what the water was like, really proved to us, go back to what really has proven itself to be worthwhile. So we are doubling down on our phone involvement. And we've gotten to the point we have 5 different BDCs within a single store. One of them is a dedicated separate department. They don't answer to the service manager or parts manager. They answer directly to the ownership about the effective communication and rapport building. And the only way to effectively maintain that is on a one-to-one relationship. That rapport with the customer is valuable. That's our lifeline.
And if I may add one more comment, Scott, for the past 3.5 years at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, the number one topic of all the topics that we have on the show is the phones. And we've surveyed the attendees and the viewers, and it's not like, high tech. It's like, no, we need someone to answer the phone, okay?
Yeah.
And not keep the customer hanging there and waiting.
Well, to show you the commitment that we have to it, the service BDC is set up directly outside the door to my office. I can interact and listen and engage and monitor for issues and really invest that level of partnership with that business unit to make sure that it's consistently successful. That's how important it is to our operation.
All right. Ladies, I'll turn it over to you. And Trevor Shannon, welcome. We're going to see you this week in Florida. Good thing we're going to Florida. Sean Kingery, man, he's freezing up there in Wisconsin. Jeez.
I like Trevor's comment. That's great.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So, Katrina, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll take the first question away. So, Scott, you talked a little bit about your background and your various experiences out of the industry spanning over 20 years. So, using that background knowledge, I'm curious kind of how has marketing, specifically in the fixed ops department of the dealership, evolved over the years? And I'm curious, what emerging trends do you see that are going to be emerging and shaping the future?
Yeah, great question. Frankly, advertising and marketing for fixed ops for a long time felt very, very static. We had just a couple of channels. It was basically print and it was a little bit of digital content from the OEMs, but it never changed. It never got updated. It never got fresh, and it definitely wasn't diverse. And the biggest modifications I've seen to that are in the multi-channel approach, that now we talk about fixed ops across every channel you can imagine, and it seems like it's growing every single day. And then finally, we're getting some support from the OEM side. For so long, especially certain key American brands were very, very slow to get us any new content. We see it every single month for new car sales. We saw new campaigns, we saw new videos, we see new images, we see new approaches, but we really didn't see it with fixed ops. And we're finally getting that support level from the OEM together with their own in-house creativity. So what it's boiled down to is the same kind of multi-channel dynamic approach, communicating to customers across many, many channels. And then the responsibility falls to me to make sure those methods of communication in whatever channel they get delivered are consistent and updated. And then ultimately it falls down to the responsibility of the people inside the building to have quality communications in a timely, professional manner to really finish that last foot.
Yeah, of course. And I wanted to kind of go off Trevor's comment here. He says, I feel like at this point, AI can enhance human interaction and not replace it. So what features within AI do you think can help the marketing side of things in terms of enhancing, the human interaction and the overall experience and getting that word out?
The best successes we've had so far have frankly been late night interactions when I can't properly staff a phone department. Things like chat modules that can take place to really have a placeholder to chat with customers and let them know we'll get back to you in a way that's much more professional than a traditional autoresponder. But we make it clear in those communications, this is not a real life human being. This is a stepping stone so that we can continue that communication. And we offer those additional communication channels, whether someone wants to text us, email us, or imagine this, call us. We give them that channel to have that communication that's appropriate for them when we're back in the office.
Right.
That's been the best way we've been able to augment.
Yeah. And I think most customers understand that there's not someone manning the phones at 11 p.m. at night when they need a chat bot. So
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. And speaking of that human interaction, why is it critical to build customer relationships in fixed ops and kind of build that person-to-person connection with your customers?
Great question. And I think the answer is really, really simple business, because we, as big as we get, we still have a finite customer base. Customers are really mostly comfortable traveling X miles to buy a car, lease a car, or service a car. And if we can maintain that relationship in a positive manner for that entire cycle, the objective is just to have people go through that entire cycle over and over again, buy or lease a vehicle, get it serviced with us, continue to have positive experiences so they want to continue that. And if they're just being shuffled through robots and not maintaining those interpersonal relationships, they're not going to be as likely to maintain a repeat. On the other side, if they really feel connected to the way that we do business and they really appreciate the way we value them as an individual and recognize them and make them feel comfortable and welcome, our chances of propelling that relationship go up dramatically. And then ultimately we spend less for marketing because our customers are already invested in here.
There you go.
It's Scott. It seems that fixed ops didn't get a lot of love. Okay,
At all.
The last couple of years, it's kind of started to turn around, and now people are realizing, oh, wait a second, that's where we get the trades, the good trades coming in on the service drive, and
a little money too. Yeah, it's wonderful to finally see that love turning the corner and being recognized for what it's overdue to receive. It's really been fun to witness. And frankly, part of the motivation for this change, I think, is a reflection of what the control mechanism has been for so long. It's been driven by co-op dollars. The dealership's hands are tied by what the OEM is willing to invest and agree to channel in terms of co-op. And so we have to be very strategic as a dealer how we use that money. You know, it's a use it or lose it kind of proposition. And it's our money, for goodness sake, let's face it. But we have to be really, really logical and strategic for that margin that we've got. How do we invest that small additional margin to differentiate ourselves? And that's really been the key recipe to success, is to invest wisely.
Yeah. I'm curious. So this is for Elian and Scott. So how do you guys, how do you stay on top of current industry trends in an ever evolving, industry that we're in and in this automotive marketing climate? And also, Elian, how do you at all kind of share that with your Car Wars clients and express the importance of staying on top of trends and how that can affect the business side of it in any aspect?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I want to touch on a key part that you said, which is, do I have to be on top of my team to keep up with it? I'll say that the answer to that is no. I don't have to, because my team is so driven to be ahead of the game. Because if you look, we don't have the chart here, but if you look at the chart of how AI has grown, it's not linear. It's not, up one, up one, up one. It's literally exponential. Mm-hmm. So with my team, they know, and when I say my team, I'm talking about the entire technical background team, as well as the senior leadership. They know if we're not ahead of the market, if we're not ahead of not only our partners and competitors, but if we're not ahead of even what the dealerships are expecting, we're going to end up being behind. So the way that's how our team works. And when we look at different processes, including the one that Scott alluded to, which is after hours customer experience, which most of the time, hey, I have a problem, I'm just going to pick up the phone. I'm not looking to see whose shift is open, right, or who's working right now. So our team is developing, and it's in the process, and there's some testing on AI receptionists and different types of interactions to where when a customer calls in, whether the dealership is open or isn't open, the experience is identical. Either booking an appointment or getting them to a live person. If they're closed, we'll get them a follow-up, or we'll have someone reach out to them post-hand, basically. So the way that, the simple answer to that is you're either ahead or you're behind.
Dave O'Brien is in the chat tonight. And Dave, I really like the idea that you got Finnegan, got his picture in the chat there, because he's really cute. Okay. But yeah, totally agree on what you're saying. And, it's the way we've treated the customer for a long, long time, Dave. And you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. And if I may, that's exactly the mechanism that we found to be the most successful for determining where we need to choose good partners, is by asking the customer and listening to what their responses are. We do all of these measurements. We use Google Analytics, and all of these isn't bar charts, and they're informational and they're interesting. But truly, where the rubber hits the road is asking customers, what do you think? How was your experience? How can we improve? How can we make this a better relationship? What is potentially missing, if anything? And then the most challenging component to that is getting our ego out of the way and listening to the results of that conversation. And the dramatic conversations that come out of that, really heartfelt responses, are what we can use and should use to drive our business. That's where we found success, is by actually paying attention. And we've taken it to the point at the dealership where I use these different surveys to customers directly to them. The answers come back and they get funneled to every single manager. There's no filter. So everyone has a clear picture about what the customer likes, doesn't like, and they have an unfiltered response in terms of where we need to go from here. And because of that simple move, we've seen dramatic changes.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, we had, if I may just real quick, we had Greg Penske on the show from Longo Toyota. And right. Greg, we were having a conversation, and you know what he said, in terms of listening to the customer. He said, Ted, I read all the surveys. And this is Greg Pensky, right?
Yeah.
He's got some better things to do. He says, but I pay most attention, not to the check boxes, but I read the comments, because the comments are really what the customer is thinking. He goes, I read all the comments on those surveys. That's the most important part. And that's the most important thing I want to learn.
I agree.
And we're in such a customer-facing industry where I think at the end of the day, I think it should be more than just common sense to understand that what the customer says is what we should take into account. And that's a lot of, what a lot of other customers are feeling as well.
Absolutely. And we're seeing a difference. You see businesses, like I'm seeing these great topic comments pop up. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. These are people paying attention who actually believe this same general message. But we're seeing businesses, not just the car business, we're seeing businesses that listen to the customer and then take proactive efforts to adjust accordingly, become more and more impactful, not just more profitable, but more and more connected. And the positive impacts of that are really wide ranging, and I think will cement our future. It's a critical move.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if you don't mind, I add to that, to tie the two topics together of our original conversation of the phones as well as managing that customer experience. What we try and do at Car Wars is when I set up a dealership, or when I'm working with, for example, Roseville Kia, I will personally see, if I'm a customer, if I call in, how do I want the flow to go? How do I want it to be when I click an extension? How do I want it to be when I reach someone and I'm forwarded, etc.? Because we can analyze the data of the customer connect rate as well as the percentage that customers call back. And the way that I talk to many of my dealerships is, forget that you have a product, forget that you have, you're managing dollars go up and down. Just look at the rate to which customers will hang up and not call you back, because it tells them whether they called back or not. And you can tell that depending on that experience, when they call in, they may or may not call back depending on that experience. And especially in today's world with the AI and the growing development of just the phones in general, most people are going to call in before they just walk in. So that initial experience that customer gets for the phone, that's going to determine whether or not they show up to your dealership.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes along with, on average, only 68% of a service drive's incoming calls get connected to someone who can help. So that is a very important metric to look at when it comes to, building those first impressions. And so I guess a follow-up question is, what other strategies can be implemented to kind of improve that call connection?
I think I already alluded to part of it. We just did the major step to commit to having 5 units that just answer phone calls. We've invested in terms of our personnel and our allocated real estate to commit that a level of investment to make sure those communications are possible, that they're monitored, and that they are profitable. I think that's our biggest resource. We all know as our people, if we make that first, the benefits will follow. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, I've yet to see AI even touch that kind of conversation.
And Scott, in service, there are some things we can get back to the customer on by text and so on. But when the customer has a more detailed question, they do want to call, okay? And they want to speak to somebody because, here's their big investment, right? And now it's got, 35,000 miles and needs tires and may need brakes. And, they want to speak to a person very often.
They do. And so many times we will get a brief communication alternative. We'll get a text message or a chat module piece that pops up, and someone thinks they've got a quick question, and it needs to be a full conversation. And sometimes there is some resistance to have that transition happen. And when it does, that's what clinches the relationship. It is that complete conversation that really moves the needle. And quite frankly, keeps us ahead of our local competition. The commitment to that rapport is really everything.
And Scott, you've obviously got a lot of choices being a dealer in the U.S. as to who you can work with.
Sure.
I like to use the word partner. Why partner with a company like Car Wars? What made them stand out? What makes Car Wars different and unique that you'd want to share?
Well, we've had a long-term relationship, so I have to rack my memory to remember what I was filtering when we first started this. But I know part of what stood out was the willingness for the different management levels at Car Wars to work with us directly to give me the answers I needed. To what Elian's talked about, to have the metrics about the connection, about being able to monitor what those calls actually consist of, so that we can do some diagnostics after the fact and say, this is where we did it right, or this is where we have opportunities. To have the ability to monitor the number of calls, the length of time that the communication happened, if they're transferred to someone else or not. We can literally dissect that conversation and then share it with our teams so that we can learn from our own actions about how to be better, and really look at ourselves in the mirror and say, this is where we're at, and this is how we can progress. And I have yet to see any other partner vendor that's given me that level of interaction and the willingness to adjust their tools to reflect what our needs are. It's very much like customers come to us to fix a problem. We came to them to fix a problem, and they did so. And that's led to the kind of long-term rapport that we're asking our customers to choose.
So, Elian, I think that this would be a great, bragging point for you. So I think your perspective on that question would be great as well. Why should a dealer group choose Car Wars to work with? And from your side, what are the benefits of choosing a company like that one?
Yeah, thanks, Scott, for those words. And I think Scott alluded to it and really highlighted it perfectly. But it's almost like, in a funny, I kind of want to say this in a funny way, but it's almost like when you call one of your parents because you need help, they're never going to tell you no, and they're just going to do whatever they can to help you. When you call us, by no means are we, your parents, but it's like, okay, like I have to find the answer to this. Like I have to make sure that they feel good about what they need help with. And it's not like they're calling us to solve some crazy equation, but it's like, hey, how come when a customer is calling my Auto Trader line, it keeps going to voicemail? And we come to find out that, random example, the receptionist is instead of forwarding it here, it's going to a line that doesn't pick up, or something like that. Or, hey, how come when my service drive gets called at a certain time, we're not connecting as much? Well, it turns out that somebody at the service drive just happens to take, the group takes a lunch at 12. So from 12 to 1, nobody picks up the phone. And that's happened before. You'd be surprised what we find. But it's the leadership that comes to us. And for me especially, I just look like, okay, Scott has a question, or this dealership has a question or an issue. It's like, what can I do to get this done? And it's a same day response. We can go, and like Scott was alluding to, if you say, Elian, I need like some real backup here. We bring in people from our leadership team that have experience, that have worked in dealerships for 20, 30 years, that now work for Car Wars to help us with these types of questions. So it's the support that is unmatched. It's the drive and the support.
Wonderful.
And Rebecca Trinick's comment here, curious how it works in F&I. Elian, this is a total dealership solution, not just fixed, but variable, and of course, including the finance and insurance department as well.
Yeah, of course. And of course, when you look at finance and insurance, it's of course a little bit different than the game of sales versus service. Customer calls in, you're trying to win their business. When it comes to finance and insurance, it's obviously a little more nuanced. Either the customer already has the vehicle, or they're past the sales process to purchase one. But with finance and insurance, of course, it's always going to be there. Like, you need to know what's going on the phone. Is my finance team, or is my my executive leadership, are they answering these calls at the extent that we need them to? Are we getting them to the right person? If they're consistently looking for something, why is it that the customer is always frustrated about this? And we see, and I'm glad that question was asked, but we see that finance and insurance is really the group that doesn't connect as often as sales and service. So as much as we like to think that they might be the stepchild of the group, it's really important to know that that's a big part of your business.
Yeah, huge. A lot of great information tonight, everybody. And Christian, honored to have you in the chat as well. A lot of great conversation, everybody. If you want to learn more about Car Wars, you could visit them online. Eliane, I don't want to give the wrong URL. Where would our viewers go if they want to learn a little bit more?
Well, it should be www.carwars.com. And if you type Car Wars in the Google bar, it should be the first one to come up. There's plenty of opportunities there to request the demo and to have a conversation with our team. If you just want to know what it is, just give us a request a demo, and our team will call you and they'll share their screen just like we're doing here, and they'll just show you what it is.
Yeah, I love it. Super. And Scott, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We could go on and on, with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe our time's up.
And by the way, I'd love to have both of you gentlemen back on the upcoming roundtable. We have a lot of panels coming, so if I could tap into some of your expertise, I think that would be amazing. All right, Vanessa, your turn. How do we get the tickets, and how much are they?
Yeah, so our next event, Route 66 road trip, is going to be happening January 20th through the 23rd. As always, 4 days, not 5, Sean, all virtual and online. And you can get your complimentary tickets. That's right. They are free of charge and complimentary at fixedopsroundtable.com. And yeah, Scott and Eliane, we would love to have you on our upcoming event and back with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's going to be great.
Would love to join anytime.
A lot of great information, everybody. So again, carwars.com for more information on Car Wars. Scott with us tonight from Roseville Kia up in the beautiful Sacramento, California area. And Scott, give us a weather check up there. What is it about now?
It's a blistery 60 degrees or so.
Okay. All right. So Scott, we're going to be out there. Myself and Katrina and Vanessa will be out there on March the 12th, I believe. We're doing another pop-up event locally, so we'll have to get together with you or invite you over to that as well, because it'll be right down the road. And Eliane, great meeting you, and you lived up to all the hype that Heather told us about, so congratulations.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we had this great conversation. Obviously, learned a lot from Scott and learned a lot from you, Vanessa, Ted, and Katrina with those great questions. And we appreciate giving us the ability to talk about how to improve our dealers. So we really appreciate it.
Super fantastic. Everybody at Northwood University, of course, the home of Katrina and Vanessa while they go to school there. And Katrina, give us a plug for that auto show again coming up. When is that this year? I think it's a little bit early in the fall.
Yeah. So every year at Northwood, we have a student-run auto show in the fall. The dates this year are September 19th through the 21st. Everyone is invited out. It is a great event where a lot of different automotive executives are present and very supporters of our university. So come on out, and if you stay tuned, you'll hear more about it.
And Vanessa, who's the chair of the auto show this year?
I was just going to say, what she didn't mention is that she is the general chair of the 60-second show, meaning she is in charge of it all. And we are so proud of her and can't wait to see what she does.
Yep. 62nd Annual International Auto Show, the largest in North America. Our own Katrina Ness is the general chair. Katrina, what do we find out? I think it's the 6th time a lady has been the general chair.
Yeah, only a handful of times out of 62 years. So it's an honor to, continue that tradition again and add another woman to, the alumnus that have been. So I'm excited.
All right. On behalf of Car Wars, Eliane and Scott at Roseville Kia, I'm Ted Ings. Fixed Ops Roundtable, we'll see you later this week. We'll be coming to you live from Bozard Ford Lincoln for the pop-up event there. And we'll be back next Monday night with the holiday show. And stay tuned. We're going to have Santa here. We'll have Ed Roberts, Tully Williams, Ron Overs, Brian Kramer, and more. We'll find out who's been naughty or nice this year and who's on what list. So we'll see you all later in the week, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.